The Bible says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. The truth is not something. The truth is someone. That someone is Jesus Christ. And when you know him, you have the truth, and you walk in the truth, and you joy in the truth, and you rejoice with truth that is unspeakable and unshakable, because Christ is the solid rock.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me to my channel again the last hours, and thank you for joining me on this video. This video will be simultaneously, hopefully, something that people will like, but also there will be a lot of people, certainly in the great unwashed collective known as the left movement, who won't like it. Also, there will be certain individuals relating to jihadi sympathisers and the like. They won't like it either, because what I'm going to try and do is spell out the truth. Please excuse me, my dog is wanting to play with this whilst I'm trying to film this. There you go, good boy. So if you hear panting or whatever, when you see me doing this, it's basically him, because he's a 1-year-old puppy, and he's a rescue puppy, but he's very much still a puppy. Anyway, now I do apologise, because this video will most likely go on a little bit too long for some people. If you want a really good video on this concept, be sure to look at Ben Shapiro's video on Palestine. I think it was something titled like that, but basically look at his channel full stop, because he is very good. Now, this is episode 1 of the retrospective look on Jacob's troubles. And as you know, hopefully you've seen the introduction video, this will form one part of the channel. This will most probably be a video which can be quite contentious, along with the playlist, because of the current political and sociological climate at the moment. I'm just trying to hopefully get some good information out there, and I'm going to, as I said, basically I'm reiterating what Ben Shapiro stated. However, I'm adding just a few little sort of bits and pieces, and that's about it, really. Please excuse me if you see me looking over here, because I've got quotes that are on my phone. I've got something on the computer monitor there, and I'm going to try and intersperse this sort of discussion with posters and stuff like that. So, episode 1, the elephant in the room. What is the big elephant in the room? Well, is it Israel or Palestine? Now, we have to go back about 2,500 to 3,000 years ago for when the Israelites were removed from slavery. They've been calling out to God constantly, please save us, and so on and so forth. And then God said, all right then, Moses, lead your people out. Time to get them out, lead my people out, sorry. Get them out and basically get them to safety. There's some promised land over in this sort of neck of the woods, a bit next door to where you are, but the promised land will be given to you, provided that you behave yourselves. Now, the issue is, excuse this week, so the Israelites are quite rebellious against God, like we all are, and when they were released, or basically rescued from slavery in Egypt and what else have you, they would start moaning. Why have you left us here to die, God? You've brought us into a desert. We'd be better off in Egypt under the lash of our slave drivers and so on and so forth. So why are we here? What have you done to us, so on and so forth? I can only imagine that the Almighty did get annoyed with it and was thinking, well, hang on a minute, don't be so disrespectful or ungrateful. I'm going to make you wander around in the wilderness for 40 years until you learn your lesson. And then you're going to take that little chunk of land over there. Well, the land that he gave to them, what was it called? Israel or Palestine? Well, the actual truth is neither of those. At the time, it is basically known as the land of Canaan. And the Canaanite tribes lived within the land of Canaan. Now, God had decided that because of the actions of the Canaanite tribes, and I'll leave you to read Genesis for this, basically they were to be removed, their land was to be taken away from them. God puts up principalities, he tears down empires. It's what he is, it's what he does, simply put. And we are in no way, shape or form to ever complain. Now, the peoples that live there. So on this screen grab I've taken from the internet, it's basically called the Jesus Walk Bible Study Series. It's got the Canaanite tribes and the root of the 12 spies, and it's encapsulated in Numbers 13, Joshua 3:10. Now, that little red line, that's just basically obviously where the spies have come, gone from and so on and so forth, but we're not going to worry about that. We'll just look at these sort of sections. Now, at the very top, you've got Syria. Now, Syria has the oldest inhabited city in the world, being Damascus. We will discuss Damascus fairly soon. It forms a massive part of eschatology, and we will take a look at that very soon. So you've got Phoenicia next to it, and so on and so forth. You've got Bashan, and let's go down from there. So you've got an area controlled by a group of people called the Girgashites. Under Bashan, you've got the Amorites, and then we carry on down through Hivites, Perizzites. You've got the Amorites, Moabites, Edomites, Kenites, Amorites again, and the Amalekites. You also have the Canaanites, where these all would be the Canaanites. But there's a little section right down from Gaza going past Ashdod. That's called Philistia, and at the present time I'm talking about, that does not form a part of Canaan at the time. This was sort of a little bit afterwards, after the Israelites have sort of got there and trying to take the land. But we'll deal with that fairly soon, because it does start the whole sorry ball rolling. So basically, we've got all these different kinds of tribes. You've got the Amorites, you've got the Moabites, you've got the they weren't exactly the Canaanites, but you've got the Jebusites. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the Jebusites in Jerusalem. Yeah, it's a very important one. So Kenites, Amorites, Anakim, all these different kinds of groups of people were within the land which is now known as Israel. Now, God told Moses and his sons, basically, when you get to this land, Moses, you won't be getting to this land, but when the rest of you get to the land, you must be able to take that land, because there are groups of people there that, they've annoyed me to a very large extent. They've done some very bad things, and therefore, you're going to remove them, and you're going to take this land, the land of milk and honey. However, you're going to have to do it, and I think this is a bit of forethought from God himself, because you're going to have to learn to protect yourselves in years to come. So you're going to have to take it by force. So that means that you're going to have to learn how to be relatively aggressive, or basically how to look after yourselves, how to protect yourselves. And so that was what happened. The Israelite tribes came in to the land of Canaan and began sort of displacing the people. It took them a decent amount of time. They would, be able to wipe one section out and, coexist with another section, but basically they had control of the land. That's the Israelites, and so on and so forth. Now, approximately 100 years after all of this is going on, so, you've got the Canaanites. Basically, they're not wanting to lose their land, which is understandable. The Israelites are saying, well, God has actually given us this bit of land, so we're going to, we're going to take it. And whilst all of this is going on, and there's a bit of sort of a geopolitical manoeuvring, 100 years later, a group of people came from what is believed to be around the Greek area, called the Philistines, or the Philistines, whichever way you want to say it. So the Philistines basically sailed over, and then they started attacking the Canaanites as well and tried to basically take land. And so, looking back at the picture, as you can see, so we've got Philistia, which basically starts from sort of like Gaza and goes up below Aphek in the Hivite kind of region. Now, this is where, as I said, the sorry state of affairs today all stems from. That and a filthy terrorist. Basically, we've got the issue of the Israelites had the issues of the Philistines. The Philistines were just constantly attacking. They were constant trouble for them. They couldn't stand each other. The Israelites and the Philistines were basically to and fro, until eventually the Israelites actually won, and the Philistines were effectively wiped out or absorbed. Now, where does this come into it? Well, basically, since these times, and it has been prophetically stated, Christ himself also stating the fact that Israel will be attacked. It was attacked by the Babylonians. It was attacked by the Romans, who had control of Israel for a very long time. Since then, it's been attacked by the Ottoman Empire. The British Empire then fought the Turks to get the Ottoman Empire out, and so on and so forth. I'm just paraphrasing because I'm not going to go through every single group of people that have attacked, but the Israelites have been constantly attacked. As they've had control of their promised land, again, what did they do? They started to go against God's word. So God, speaking through the prophets, had told the Israelites that you're in for trouble. You really are going to be in for trouble. The prophecies show from all those thousands of years ago that you will be attacked, and soon enough you will actually be dispersed from your land, or the majority of you will be dispersed from your land. So we've got, like in Daniel's time, Daniel himself being taken away by the Babylonians, as, some Jews were left in Israel, but a lot of them were taken back to Babylon, and, and so on and so forth. So, but we're talking about the times of Hadrian, the Emperor Hadrian. And this is where it all sort of starts, really, the sadness of, what do we call Israel? Now, back in 132 to 136 AD, there was quite a sort of a rebellious Jewish figure called Bar Kokhba. He led a massive revolt to try and remove the Romans from Jewish land. Now, Hadrian, not him personally, but obviously he given the directives to his governors and so on and so forth, ordered that it would be quelled. Millions of Jews lost their lives due to the punishment meted out by the Roman Empire upon the revolution, or basically the revolt. And so it is at this point when Hadrian decided to start digging in a knife into the side of Israel and start twisting it to give them more pain. He then renamed the land of Israel to Syria Philistina. Now, as we've seen, and as we've discussed, the Philistines come from Greece. They came around about approximately 100 years after the Jews had started taking the land. The Philistines were a complete pain for the Jews, and therefore Hadrian thought it would be very good to do that, to rename the whole country Syria Philistina. He also wanted to throw salt into the wound and rename Jerusalem Elia, and basically to make it a pagan city, which, as we know, Jerusalem is the centre of God's plan for everything. Just the same as the Jews are, I would say, God's special chosen people. The rest of us who are definite believers are chosen people, but the whole scriptures, the whole everything revolves around the Jews. Now, this is a massive insult to the Jews. At this time, there had been obviously great exiles from like 70 AD and so on and so forth. There had been a lot of Jews leaving the area, going through the world, because, as Christ himself stated, the Romans will attack, or he will be attacked. Not one stone will be left on top of another for Solomon's temple, which is the second temple. Basically, all these things, they've come true. But however, Christ himself, along with others, stated, you will have to come back to your land, and you will come back to your land. It's like another sort of exodus or an exile. It's like another wandering in the wilderness, I suppose. Now, so from that point in time, from Hadrian deciding to rename Israel, he's basically stolen the identity of Israel from the Israelites. He's then called it Syria Philistina as an insult. Now, of course, as we said, various other people have attacked, so on and so forth. The Ottomans have got it, and then the British get it. And then it becomes effectively British Mandate Palestine. Now, it was called Palestine, obviously, because it's an anglicised kind of word for Philistina and so on and so forth, and, it was going to be left like that. Now, after the Turkish armies in the First World War were removed by the British, you had from the 1800s, you had Jews sort of coming back into Israel. Would have called it at the time, it's basically British Mandate Palestine, or basically Syria Palestina. So basically you've got the Jews trying to get back to their homeland. Now, bearing this in mind, there have always been Jews living in there. Now, when the Jews left in the first kind of dribs and drabs and so on and so forth, the neighbouring Arabs then decided to move in. So they've just basically come in and said, oh, we'll just take this bit of land. Well, in effect, that it would be determined as a stealing of land, or an appropriation of the land, because, well, it's land, it's right there, nobody's living there anymore, we're going to go and take it. Would it be a stealing of the land? Could be, it's not theirs by right, it wasn't given to them by God, so basically, and they haven't fought for it. So, that would be like maybe a discussion for another day. But the Arabs started moving in, and they started living with the Jews that were remaining within Syria Palestina, or British Mandate Palestine. Basically, they remained there with them, shoulder to shoulder, everything's all fine. So, now if we then take a look at the fact that, from the Second World War onwards, basically the Jewish people were, despised throughout the world pretty badly. Well, in some cases, in large tracts of the world. They were hunted by the Third Reich of Germany and Hitler's plan of the final solution. Unfortunately, millions upon millions of Jews were massacred. I mean, since that time, not since that time of the Holocaust, but since before the Holocaust, millions upon millions of Jews were massacred by the Russian pogroms and so on and so forth. So the Jews have been despised, which is another fulfillment of prophecy. So they've been despised, they've been sent on their way, they've had a really torrid time. And then they're basically saying, right, well, we've got the vast majority of the European Jews, they want to come back home, that's it, enough. We want to go back to our home. We were removed from our home by the Romans, we have had enough, effectively speaking. Now, the League of Nations, which is now like a precursor to what I would call the United Nothing, which is actually the United Nations, but on this channel we'll call it actually exactly what it is, the United Nothing. It's an apocryphal and disgusting body of individuals who are absolutely useless and really shouldn't be there anymore. But, we'll discuss that later. The League of Nations said to the British, right, okay then, well, you've actually got their land, we need to give it back to them. So the original plan for 1948 was to give Jordan and what is Israel now back to the Israelis. The Arabs didn't like it, so the British tried to appease the Arabs and said, all right then, well, you keep Jordan, we'll just give them this chunk here. So the Arabs, again, they started getting a bit uppity, I suppose. They didn't like the fact that all these Jews were flooding in to their homeland, and therefore they tried to have various wars like the 6-Day War and so on and so forth. They then realised actually you're fighting against God's people, and it's really not good for you to try and do that. So basically, the Jews were coming back into British Mandate Palestine, or instead of saying that all the time, then it was shortened to Palestine. But the Jews then had the vote. Ben Gurion, the first Prime Minister, said, well, let's have a vote, and then they said, right, we're going to call it what it is, and what it's always been, Israel. Now, from there, okay, you've got the Jews there fulfilling prophecy, like turning the deserts into the Garden of Eden, so on and so forth. We'll take a look at those on the other playlists as we get to it. And basically, from that point, Israel was doing okay. Now, from the 14th of May 1948, which is one of the most prophetic times that you could ever imagine, this is where the real deal started, the real bad deal started. There was a filthy, disgusting terrorist by the name of Yassar Arafat. And in the 4th of February 1969, Arafat took over what was called the Palestine Liberation Organization. He basically he was an Egyptian of all things, so he didn't even live from the area. He actually originate from the area of Israel. And basically he decided to try to coalesce a galvanized movement for terror under the PLO, under his smoke screens, lies and smiles and so on and so forth that he did. He started terrorist attacks in earnest, and he then decided to try and galvanize a group of people, the Palestinians from Palestine. He basically tried to, that was when the false Palestinian flag was designed. He tried to make it seem like, oh, we're a people under oppression, we're a people under genocide, we're a people under the colonization of the colonial power of Israel, and we are really, really, really downtrodden. Now, the thing is that Yassar Arafat was an absolute master of propaganda, just as Hamas are today. Now, the issue is that people have tried on many accounts to try and sort of appease and so on and so forth, but Yassar Arafat, he couldn't care less. He's just a full-blown, filthy, disgusting terrorist, simply put. Now, I'm going to read this directly from my phone because I've got it here, and it's absolutely word for word quoted, which shows the whole juxtaposition, the whole everything behind Palestine, the Palestinian flag, the Palestinian people. So in 1977, a PLO spokesman, Zakir Hussein, if I've said it correctly, made a statement that should be heeded to this day. It's very, very, very true. And he was basically being interviewed by a Dutch paper called Trouw. And this is what he said, quoted: "The Palestinian people does not exist. The creation of a Palestinian state is only a means for continuing our struggle against the state of Israel for our Arab unity. Today there is no difference between Jordanians, Palestinians, Syrians and Lebanese. Only for political and tactical reasons do we speak today about the existence of a Palestinian people." So right from the horse's mouth, Palestine does not exist. The Palestinian people do not exist. The Palestinian flag is a copy of the Jordanian flag with the red star missing. They do not exist. They are a group of Arab people that have congregated within the Gaza area and what was called the West Bank because of Jordan and stuff like that, but actually what is properly known as Judea Samaria. These are groups of Arabs that basically come from different areas and moved in and effectively stolen those areas because they're trying to state it's theirs and they're trying to change history. If there's one thing I cannot stand, and it's happening in the country in which I live, it's the way that people try to change history to fit a political narrative. History isn't nice. History is never nice. Some history is, but generally history isn't very nice. It's full of bloodshed and so on and so forth. And therefore, we have this issue now. So you've got the great unwashed yelling from the river to the sea, let Palestine be free. You're not talking about a country. You're not talking about a group of people. You're not talking about anything. You know nothing. Because even the people that made up this whole process of the Palestinian people, the Palestinian flag, the Palestinian state, basically themselves said it's nothing there, it's not there, except for their means and ends politically. So where does this leave us? Well, basically, for 2,500 to 3,000 years, Israel has been Jewish. It's Israeli. It's always been Israeli. It's the promised land from God himself to the Jewish people. The state of Palestine does not exist. Simply put, the people that coined the term Palestinian people and the flag and so on and so forth basically themselves said it does not exist. Palestine does not exist. Full stop. I'm hoping that this discussion will open some eyes in the great unwashed and also the sympathisers to the jihadi cause. There will, of course, will be people that will flatly refuse it, even though that this is historically verified. The fact that the Jews have taken the land from a group of people, or groups of people, the tribes of people that basically were having the land removed from them because God had given his reasons. Not that God has to. You've got a terrorist jumping on a political or a nasty kind of identity theft by a Roman emperor. That's the way it is. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.